Is the live stream and everything ready to go? Oh. Okay, I think we're ready to get started. Is that right? Everyone? Okay. I'd like to call the meeting to order. Nicole, can you do roll call, please?
Mr. Blair? Mrs. Grosh?
Here.
Mrs. Gutierrez?
Here.
Mr. Hald?
Yes.
Mrs. Morales?
Here.
Let's stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Do we have any other consideration of additional agenda items?
No, ma'am.
Any other board members?
No.
Do we have anybody for public comment? And I guess the first one is Jim Fenimore. And what I'd like to remind everybody is comments made by members of the public shall be made only during the public comment portion of the meeting and shall be limited to 3 minutes per individual and 5 minutes per group spokesperson unless additional opportunity is given at the board's discretion. Each member of the public wishing to speak will need to have signed in, thank you, and mark the box indicating they wish to address the board. Mr. Fenimore has signed in, and the topic he would like to discuss is the fence.
Good evening, board. Good to see y'all. Staff, good to see y'all. At any rate, I just wanted to make a comment about the fence that we got put down here between the apartments and the you guys' property. I think it's going to be a great improvement for the community in Highland Hills both. So, good job on that. And then I did talk to Bob about a week ago or so about the all the different rides they have. Some kind of a voice commands and things, and so Bob said he's going to work on that. But what I understand is that there's something like 58 rides, and there's 58 recordings, and so hopefully with the budget that you guys got out of that 90 million, you can afford to get some timers and set that aside, and also some time for an electrician to wire those up, because it's really annoying that they're going 24 hours a day. So if you guys could work on that, that would be appreciated. And then I've noticed that through the years have gone by, the guys that are mowing, they just run over the trash. So one piece of trash turns into 1,000 pieces of trash. And I was riding along one day, and I seen this guy mowing, and he's got a mower, and he's got a 5-gallon bucket with some tongs. And as he rides along, he don't even have to get off the mower. He can just take those tongs, pick the trash up, put it in a 5-gallon bucket, and it doesn't turn into a million pieces. So if you guys want to look at that, I've got a picture of it. I can show you guys. And that's what I got. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Fenimore. The next comment is from Art Dubois, and he is here to talk about the fence.
I'm going to reiterate what Mr. Fenimore said about we're glad to see that fence up. That's been sorely needed. And as far as the trash, I agree. I've noticed the same thing here just a couple of days ago. They had run over some trash right here by Pecos, and that was 1,000 pieces, and it had been maybe just 1 or 2 pieces initially. So a bucket on that, the receptacle on that mower would be a great idea. And like I said, a grabber, and they don't even have to get off the mower. They see it, they pick it up, and it's cleaned up. The other thing is, I would also caution Highland Hills, whoever's in charge of that down there, to keep that area on the north side of that fence well maintained and mowed. I do have concerns about those people in the apartment and their trash getting on the other side of the fence, because there's a couple of walkways and there's a couple of large openings where the emergency vehicles can get through in case there's a fire. They can get the fire truck in there. That was excellent foresight to put those, but it can also be a problem. So keep that area clean, mowed, and Mr. Fenimore and I will be the watchdogs and let you know if there's a problem. We thank you again for your efforts in that area. We really appreciate it.
Thank you, Art and Jim, for your comments. We appreciate that, and we'll consider them. Yvonne, Nicole, do we have any introductions or presentations? With that, I'm looking for a motion to approve, to vote on the treasurer's report.
I move that the Board of Directors of Highland Hills Park and Recreation District approve the May 2025 Treasurer's Report as presented.
I second.
What discussion would we like to have about that treasurer's report?
I think Skylar has a little bit of voiceover on some of the numbers, please.
Sure. Mike submitted a couple of questions to me yesterday, so I'd like to walk you through some of those and draw your attention to a few numbers on the treasurer's report. So the first is under government fund revenues, conservation trust fund. You'll notice we have not received our disbursement yet in 2025. That's a 0 there under actual for May. So we got to the bottom of that recently. And it was we were missing some paperwork with the state. It was sort of lost in the shuffle between finance directors. So we have since taken care of that. We expect to receive probably 2 disbursements in July. So we'll be all square on that. You'll see that on a future treasurer's report. Next, I want to draw your attention to tax revenue under government fund revenues. You'll notice we were about $260,000 higher last year when compared to this year's actuals. There was a one-time allotment that we received from the state about this time last year. That was backfill for lost property taxes. There was the whole state legislation around property taxes. So we received a one-time payment that probably made up that difference. So we won't receive that moving forward. But just in case you're looking at this year's actuals compared to the prior year's actuals, that's the reason for that variance. Okay, next, government fund expenditures, interest and other expenses. You'll notice we are about $824,000 higher than than to budget and to prior year. That is largely made up of debt service payment. It's just a timing thing. We made that payment in May. We budgeted for it in June, so we just paid it early this year. We were on top of things and made that payment. The election expense that we had in May, that's also accounted for in that line.
In the other expenses line, not
Yes.
the board of directors line.
Correct, in other expenses. And then, under Ice Center, you'll notice we are about $404,000 over budget this year, and 200 or so when compared to prior year actuals. That's largely made up of capital expenses. We were able to knock out some capital projects out of that fund earlier this year. That includes the boiler. We had to repaint the blue rink. We also had to replace a compressor. So there were a number of capital projects that we were able to take care of this year out of that fund.
And again, when we say capital, it's a little bit different. It's more maintenance. That's why it's going to the P&L.
R&M, yes.
Yes, repairs and
Correct.
maintenance.
Yep. Okay, and then lastly, under preliminary June revenues, there towards the bottom, we're about $1.8 million under budget, especially, and even more when you compare it to last year. So just a couple items on that. So one, we had a quick turnaround to get this in the board packet. So this was like July 2nd when we submitted this to be in the board packet. So we hadn't fully closed out June. So it's probably missing several days, maybe up to 10 days or so that we hadn't reconciled. So we just didn't want to, over-report. We want to be conservative with that number. So that's one factor. And the second is we do know that June had some weather impacts at our facilities. You'll see that reflected in the KPI. It was just a cold, wet start to the summer in June. So likely revenues will be down. So that's something that we'll account for, but we'll know better after we close out the month and present you with the June treasury report.
In past years, where the weather hasn't cooperated early in the season, how successful have we been in making up that lost revenue?
I would say that's a mixed bag. It depends on what the weather does after that point. So what I will say is that if we are going to experience bad weather, we prefer it be in June than July and August, because July and August are our biggest potential revenue months. So depending on what the weather holds going from now till the middle of August, we'll see whether we can make it up or not.
Thank you. Does anyone have any other questions or comments before we take a vote? I think then we're ready for a vote. All of those in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
All of those opposed to the motion? Based on the votes, the motion passes. Okay. I'm looking for a motion to approve the board minutes from the last board meeting.
I move that the Board of Directors of Highland Hills Park and Recreation District approve the minutes of the board meeting of June 10th, 2025, and the special meeting of June 24th, 2025,
Second.
as written.
Second.
What comments or questions do we have about the board minutes? I don't have any questions. Anyone else? Then, all of those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All of those against? The motion passes. Now we're at the communication and correspondence to the board section. Is there any communication or correspondence to the board that we should be aware of?
No, ma'am.
Thank you. Next up is the executive director update.
Thank you, Madam President. So you all have the copy of the June report in your packets. I just wanted to point out a couple of items. The first one being that we did successfully host part of the Sparkler softball tournament. That's a really major girls softball tournament in the state of Colorado. There are fields all across the state. What I'm happy to report is that they were really pleased and complimentary about the improvements that we have made at our ball fields, particularly over at the sports complex. So we went over and spent some time and watched the activity and talked to the event organizers, and very, very pleased with the outcome of that project. So I just wanted to let you all know that that was very much noticed. And then to your point with the weather, Margaret, we are off to a kind of wet and cool spring. We certainly are holding strong at the golf course. Adventure Golf's a little bit behind, and Waterworld as well. So if we get days like the next couple of days that we're looking at, hopefully we'll make up some ground. But just a reminder too that we also, when we did the budget for 2025, we try to always be somewhat conservative on the Waterworld revenues because it is so weather dependent. So we are not identifying any concerns at this time, but we'll continue to monitor and let the board know if we get concerned about anything.
Right. I wanted to thank you, Yvonne. Well, before I start, what questions do you all have for Executive Director Fishbach about her report? I just want to say thank you for when you gave the update on Carol Butts, just reminding us the total cost, the grants, all of that, because it saves me a lot of time from research when I go back and I'm trying to remember how much everything was. So I appreciate those numbers. Thank you. Moving on to the KPI report, would you like to, who would like to provide a summary overview of the KPI report and anything noteworthy from that report?
Sure. We provided you with a new copy tonight. We had one update to a line under part-time employee total. We had to update the numbers for May and June for that total count. So you'll see the most recent version there, which is a little more in line with where we expected it to be compared to what was presented in your board packet. Since I have the mic, I would like to highlight work comp claims is down significantly so far this year. I'd like to give a shout out to Blake Selly. He's he oversees that program with our risk management and has made an intentional effort to enhance safety in the workplace. He spearheads our safety committee. He sends out a weekly safety tips email, and I think we're seeing the impacts in that number right there.
That's great. I did notice that.
Same.
Yeah. And I did notice what a big impact the weather has on Waterworld attendance. So, any other comments or questions from the board? Okay, moving on. The legal report. Allison, thank you for your legal report. Is there any questions or concerns that the board has that they would like to address?
So which Toyota dealership's providing the truck?
Mountain States.
Mountain States? Okay.
And how challenging is it to get it into the park?
Well, it was parked outside.
Oh, it's not going to be like next to the belly flop contest? I was picturing it like in the middle of Calypso Cove.
Yeah, no, it was parked up closer to the front.
Oh, okay.
Yep. That made it easier.
Yes. I just want to highlight in the study session thanks for all the comments and about the legal report and what we were able to just learn during the study session. So thanks, everybody. It doesn't look like we have any old business. So moving on to new business, I'm looking for a motion for the Water World Attractions Package. Anyone want to give a motion?
I move that the Board of Directors of Highland Hills Park and Recreation District authorize the Executive Director to sign the agreement with ProSide Technology Incorporated to approve the total expenditure of $4,521,800 for attraction materials and installation.
I'll second.
Do we want to have staff comments? That, I can't take credit for that phrase. That's Mike's phrase.
Excellent. We would be happy to comment. So we'd like to provide an overview this evening of this evening's motions regarding the Waterworld project. At the last board meeting, we were approved to move forward with Arco Murray for the integrated project delivery. As noted in the last meeting, we would like to come back to the board with 2 additional project-related motions. The first is for ProSlide Technologies and a request for approval to sign the material and installation agreement and associated funding. The attraction RFPs for the Waterworld project was let earlier this year, with ProSlide being selected as the package of choice in that process. The board approved the design and engineering agreement and associated funds in April. Tonight's motion captures the purchase and install of the fiberglass tower and other associated items for ProSlide.
What questions or comments does the board have?
I think as we discussed during the study session, a number of the materials will be coming across the border from Canada. So we have a risk on tariffs, so we don't know what the impact will be to the project cost. And so staff will be closely monitoring this and working with the vendor to minimize the impact.
Thank you for that excellent summary. Any other comments? Not hearing any more comments. All of those in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All of those opposed? Motion passes. Moving on to the next new business item. I'm looking for a motion for the Water World Project Owner Scopes Budget.
Madam President, I move that the Board of Directors of Highland Hills Park and Recreation District approve the Waterworld Project Owner's Scope budget totaling $3,140,183.
Second.
What, could staff provide an overview of owner scope and the request?
We'd be happy to. This motion refers to the owner scope budget for the Waterworld project. For this project, there are 3 main budget components: Arco Murray, ProSlide, and owner scope. The owner scope budget captures budget items being carried by Highland Hills directly for the project and includes a contingency line. As previously discussed, the board will receive monthly updates on the project, including tracking on the owner scope budget. If approved this evening, the 2 motions that are being discussed will complete the known contract and budget requests for the project.
What comments or questions do we have from the board on this motion? I'll say thank you for during the summary session for the owner scope, and these items are outside of the Arco Murray contract because these are the items that we can control and are familiar with and are under our discretion. All those if we don't have any more comments or questions, all of those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
All of those opposed? Motion passes. The next item on the agenda is, I'm looking for a motion for the proclamation designating July Park and Recreation Month.
I move that the Board of Directors of Highland Hills Park and Recreation District approve the proclamation designating July Park and Recreation Month as such proclamation is written.
Second.
I have a question. Do we read the proclamation?
I would be happy for you guys to read the proclamation. It's a national event, park and recreations all across the country, so yeah, I think it would be great if somebody wants to read it.
Any takers on reading the proclamation? Okay, I will go. Okay. Designation of July as Park and Recreation Month. Whereas Parks and Recreation is an integral part of communities throughout this country, including the Highland Hills Park and Recreation District, and whereas Parks and Recreation promotes health and wellness, improving the physical and mental health of people who live near parks, and whereas Parks and Recreation promote time spent in nature, which positively impacts mental health by increasing cognitive performance and well-being and alleviating illness such as depression, attention deficit disorders, and Alzheimer's. And whereas Parks and Recreation encourage physical activities by providing space for popular sports, hiking trails, swimming pools, and many other activities designed to promote active lifestyles. And whereas Parks and Recreation is a leading provider of healthy meals, nutrition services, and education, and whereas Park and Recreation programming and education activities such as out-of-school time programming, youth sports, and environmental education are critical to childhood development.
Margaret, I'll take over from there.
Thank you.
Whereas Parks and Recreation increases the community economic prosperity through increased property values, expansion of the local tax base, increased tourism, the attraction and retention of businesses, and crime reduction. And whereas Parks and Recreation is fundamental to the environmental well-being of our community, and whereas Parks and Recreation is essential and adaptable infrastructure that makes our communities resilient in the face of natural disasters and climate change, whereas our parks and natural recreation areas ensure the ecological beauty of our communities and provide a place for children and adults to connect with nature and recreate outdoors, and whereas the U.S. House of Representatives has designated July as Parks and Recreation Month, and whereas the Highland Hills Park and Recreation District recognizes the benefits from parks and recreation resources. Now therefore be it resolved by Highland Hills Park and Recreation District that July is recognized as Park and Recreation Month in the Highland Hills Park and Recreation District.
Perfect.
May I suggest we just take a moment of silence for all the children that were enjoying recreational activities that perished last week in the flood.
Absolutely. Thank you for that thoughtfulness.
Thank you.
We're moving on to our next agenda item, which is the Board of Directors Committee updates. We have four. Oh, we have to vote. Whoops, hold on. Are there any other comments or observations that the board would like to share with regard of proclamation of designating July Park and Recreation Month? I'm just proud to be a part of that.
I just want to say, even though I'm on the board, I sometimes forget how important our parks are.
Thank you. Any comments from staff?
I just want to thank the board for adopting this proclamation. It really is, and I think, Danny, to your point, sometimes we get so involved in the day-to-day, we do forget that we are here to impact the lives of everybody in our community. That's part of our mission statement, and we are honored to be able to do that for this community. So thank you all for being a part of that.
Thank you. All of those in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. Now, we're moving on to the next item in our agenda, which is the Board of Directors Committee update. We have 4 committees, and so I'm going to start with the Bylaws Committee.
We have not met, so once we have the new board on board, that's kind of a redundancy, we can start getting some of the bylaws committee up and running again, as well as some of the other committees, so I'm looking forward to that.
Thank you. I'm looking for an update on the Capital Projects Committee.
That would be me again. Mike had a different something to attend. So the Capital Projects Committee meets once a month, and we talk about ongoing things that are happening at our parks and at some of our facilities. So we have 12 agenda items we did last time. We talk about things like the disc golf pedestrian bridge, the Clear Creek Valley Bike Park. We get updates on all these. I would send the board members to the executive director's summary for their Carol Butts Park, Berkeley Hills, anything that is kind of pertinent or needing immediate board attention is something that will be in her report, her executive director report. So everything else is going online. If it's going on, the work is continuing. I think probably the most inventive thing we talked about was looking into goats to eat invasive plants in Kamenish. So that might be something that this committee continues to check into.
I would like to comment on the goats. I think that's an excellent idea. I've seen the goats in action on some of Westminster's open space, North Space. And if we do that, can you just let me know so that I can go and watch them? Because it is one of the most relaxing, uplifting sights around.
Yeah, it was a great idea from Steve Hager, our project manager. So I think where we landed with the committee was that we would try to bring in a small trial program this year and then potentially put that in for a grant for a larger scale project next year. But yes, we will absolutely let you know.
And the goats that are in our neighborhood they're on they're next to Jefferson Academy on that road. So if you ever want to get your goat fix, if you go by there, you can see them there as well.
I think Mr. Fenimore and Mr. DePay would like to help us corral the goats in Kamenish. If they get out, they'll let us know.
Yeah, I got a rope.
All right.
Thank you for that update. Moving on to the Finance Committee.
We haven't had a meeting since the last board meeting, but Skylar did present us this evening with a current draft of the financial statements and summary report on the district. So Margaret and I will be taking a look at that and then working to clear a few remaining items with the auditors and hopefully get that issued here soon.
Thank you for that update. And then an update on the lease committee.
We have not met since the last meeting, and I have nothing to report.
Thank you. Are there any other committee updates or anything that anyone else would like to add? Great, thank you. Moving on to Board of Directors open discussion. The first item is the Highland Hills Foundation update. Who would like to provide an update?
Margaret, I'll do that one real quick. The foundation golf tournament is July 18th, and I'm happy to let everybody know that it is completely sold out. So we're going to have a fantastic tournament, and we're moving forward. It's been a very successful fundraiser so far for us, and we think it will even continue on July 18th to be one of our biggest fundraisers.
That's excellent. Did we sell out last year? Wow, okay, that's excellent. The other thing is the Westminster Rotary Club updates. Warren and I have the privilege of representing Highland Hills at the Rotary Club, and they have met. Their golf tournament was at Highland Hills, and that was a successful event, and they'd went through that. There aren't any other fundraisers that they have, but we actively participate in that club and are happy to do so.
Margaret, actually, their next biggest fundraiser is coming up. It's the Peaches Sale.
Oh, that's right.
So if anybody wants peaches, please go to the Westminster Rotary website and get your box of peaches. They are absolutely delicious. So you can get a small box for $33, a large box for $55, and that's your advertisement from Westminster Rotary to buy your peaches.
And they are the best peaches you will ever have. They are. I'm going to get 2 boxes. I recommend at least 1 box. Thank you for that, Warren. The last one is the board meeting action recap. Danny, I don't know if you've been keeping track. I've been trying to keep track. I don't have any action items. Do you?
Nothing other than the goats. The
Goats.
trial goats.
Thank you.
Did we miss anything? I think since we have covered everything, I'm going to adjourn the meeting. Yay!